So if you're planning your first Camino, you might be wondering, what does a typical day look like? What kind of stuff happens on a typical day walking the Camino? That's what we're going to talk about this week. So if you're planning your first Camino, you might be wondering, what kind of stuff happens on the average day while you're walking a Camino? What's the routine? What will my day look like? So I thought, particularly for those who've never been on a Camino, maybe this week we'll share what a typical day looks like. So let me just run through it pretty simply. Well, waking up in the morning, I find I have normally slept pretty well. There's something about walking all day in the fresh air, eating great food, that makes me sleep well. So I guess that also depends on where you have been sleeping. If you've been in a private room or an albergue with people snoring, but generally I wake up feeling refreshed and really eager to go. It's funny that, after you've been walking for days and days and weeks very often, every day out in the fresh air and, with a sense of purpose, you just can't wait to get going again in the morning. So I'm always eager to set off. Thing to note, I do not have a shower in the morning. So if you've been following any of my videos, there's a very good reason for that, because I don't want to get my feet wet in the morning, because if the skin absorbs the moisture from a shower, there is more likelihood of blisters. So getting ready in the morning is pretty simple. Brush the teeth, quick wash, get dressed and get out. And if you're staying in an albergue and you're an early riser, do make sure that you get out quietly if others are still sleeping. So if you're an early starter, the tip there is to have everything ready to go, so that you've just got to literally get out of your sleeping bag or your bed, pick up your pack and tiptoe out of the main dormitory area. So in the morning, I am generally raring to go. Of course, depending where I'm staying, maybe it's somewhere that they provide breakfast, so that's always a good start to the day. If not, if you're on one of the more popular routes like the Camino Frances or the Camino Portuguese or some of the others, very often you might just set off and you might plan to have breakfast at the first village that you come to, because you'll be passing quite a few. Alternatively, you might have a bit of food in your pack from the day before, and maybe that's going to be your breakfast. So starting out, always very eager to see what the day is going to bring. When I actually when I'm about to start out, I'm kind of thinking about the route for that day. I'll generally have Google Maps open, or I actually carry, on the Camino Frances, I actually carry the maps from the front of Mr. Brearley's guide, so I can see what villages are coming up and how far I've got to go. So I'm already thinking, I might be heading to that place by lunchtime, and I'm kind of roughly working out where I might stop for breaks, but it's all very, very rough. So once I start out walking, a tip I would give here is that I start out slow, because maybe I'm a little bit stiff and the bones are tired from the day before. And so I'll generally do a little bit of stretching before I go, particularly on the legs and the back. And then when I set out, I go fairly steady for the first 30 minutes or so, just to let the body warm up. And I'm kind of doing this mental check to make sure that, the knees are okay and the shins are okay and the feet and things like that. So don't go like a bull at a gate, maybe at the beginning of the day. Just kind of ease into it, warm up, make sure everything feels okay, your pack's fitting okay. I might adjust the lacing on my boots or something, just during that first half hour or so, and then pretty much ease into the pace for the day. And just start taking it all in. I mean, it's a fantastic experience just to be walking out in beautiful countryside all day, every day. And I really don't sort of plan anything for the day. What's really exciting about your first Camino, or as hopefully I'll experience in a year or so walking a new Camino, is that you really don't know what to expect, what's coming up that day. So that kind of gives you a little bit of excitement all through the day, because particularly, if you haven't been on that route before, what am I going to see? What am I going to come across? And there's always amazing things every day. It might be the scenery, it could be animals you come across, it could be other pilgrims. So once I'm in the groove, that's me set for the day, and I'm just going through my regular routine of, stopping every couple of hours, making sure I'm hydrating, making sure my feet are okay, and so on. And then depending on the particular route or, that stage that I'm on, I might be aiming for a village to stop for lunch, or I might have something in my pack for lunch. But, if I've got something in the pack, I won't plan to stop anywhere. I'll just kind of stop wherever it feels nice. It might be on a hilltop with a nice view or something like that. Or if I'm coming into a village and there looks to be a place that's doing nice snacks for lunch, I'll stop there. On the Camino Frances particularly, there's usually lots of choices. So, you might be sort of looking at a few places along the way. So lunch stops are always good. Don't sort of go head down, full on all day. You do need to have breaks. The body gets tired and you've got to refuel a bit. And so after the lunch stop, it'll be, for me, generally, I'm walking quite long days because I don't walk fast. It'll be my sort of second part of the day walking to where I plan to stay that night. I generally finish, on the Camino Frances at least, could be anything between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. I walk quite long days. I don't walk long distances, but I walk slowly because I have sort of injuries in my legs and all sorts of things. So I'm walking fairly slow. So it's generally a long day for me, long and steady. And so I make sure that I have good rest through the day. And then I'll be pulling into my night stop, any time really from about 2 p.m. onwards. So because I'm walking quite a long day, I tend to try and book the night before where I'm staying. Okay, so I'll be checking in wherever I'm staying, and generally I'll have booked that. And then it's the sort of end of the day routine. So it's very much about finding the bed, washing straight away. So I'm really only carrying 2 sets of clothes, one that I'm wearing and a spare one. So the clothes that I'm wearing come off, I'm showering, putting on the clean clothes, and then the clothes that have come off for that day. I'm washing those and hanging those up. I do that straight away as soon as I get to my accommodation, just to give it the maximum time for drying. It only takes 5 minutes. And then I might start thinking about, depending when I've finished for the day, will I relax for an hour? Depending on where I am, will I go and have a walk around? If there's any sort of sightseeing or particular... Not even if there's sightseeing, to be honest. I mean, I've stayed in tiny little villages where after I've sort of settled down and done my washing, I'll just go for a walk down the road and, chat to the cows or something. But it's nice just to wander about a little bit, I find, and kind of unwind. And an important element for me there is to make sure that I've got other footwear to change into, because you might think you don't want to go walking again at the end of the day. So if I'm wearing trail runners or boots, those come off. And I'll put on my sandals just to walk around at the end of the day and see what's there. And of course, it's always fun to see who else is there, who you're going to meet. And again, depending on the route that you're walking, you might see some familiar faces. You might have met them along the way. You might have met new friends along the way. And so very often you'll be chatting with other pilgrims. You might be working out what you're going to do for a meal that evening. That could be with other pilgrims. Everything's just up in the air. And it's really an interesting part of the Camino, I think, to kind of just see what unfolds. Very often, I'll maybe be staying in some little village, which is not a popular stop. It's not the end of one of the stages, for example, one of the recognised stages. And you think, I wonder if anyone else is staying around here tonight. And then you'll see a couple of familiar faces, and that's great. You have maybe someone to share a meal with. So that's generally my day. And then if I'm sort of hanging around and resting prior to dinner, I'm usually looking at the route for the next day. So I'm not here trying to sell you Mr. Brearley's guidebooks, but let me just turn up a page. So let's say this is my stage for the next day, or I might be going part way through that, and don't get hung up on the stages. I might be going part along that one and maybe finishing up halfway along this one or whatever. But I'll be looking there at the villages that I'll be going through. Particularly, I'm looking for things like, is there water? Is there water fountains along the way? How far is it between the villages? So how much water do I have to carry? That's a key thing to remember. Personally, I my rate is about a litre of water per 10 kilometres. So, if there's a 15-kilometre stage between villages, for example, I'll make sure I carry at least a litre and a half of water, depending on the weather. So things like that I'm looking at for the next day. And generally, because I like to book accommodation a day ahead, I'll be looking then at the villages that I might end up at. So I happen to be looking at a page here with Carrion. Let's say I'm going to plan to stay in Carrion at the end of the day. I'll have a look in a guidebook. I might look on the Gronza website. I might look on booking.com, kind of see what takes my fancy. Some people just like to walk and see where they end up and stay. That's fine. But because I'm walking longer days, I'm generally finishing quite a bit later than other people. So I just like the sort of, I guess, the security of knowing that I've got a bed. If I arrive 3 hours after everyone else, at least there's a bed at the inn. So that's generally something that I'm doing in the evening as well, just kind of thinking about where I might go the next day. And then it's time to relax and sleep like a log. It's amazing how walking all day, all that fresh air, all that great food and great company, I generally sleep like a log. So I'm just checking my notes here. That's it. And then to bed. Generally going to sleep pretty early, 9 or 10 o'clock. If you're staying in albergues, I think they generally do lights out at about 10 o'clock. You'll be wanting to go to sleep by then. You'll be tired at the end of the day. And then it's a case of sleep well, rinse and repeat. So that's what life on Camino is about. Walk, eat, sleep, and repeat. And it's a wonderful existence, whether you're able to do it for just a few days or a few months. Hopefully on my next one, I might be doing it for 6 or 7 weeks because I just like to prolong the experience. So that's what a typical day is like. Just totally chilled, not worrying too much about the plans, and just taking everything as it comes. So there we go. What's your typical day like on Camino? If you've walked a Camino before, or do you have any concerns about your first Camino if you're just planning your first one? Love to hear your comments down below. Bye for now.